We think the main way change actually happens in this debate is through the systematic change of the government of Gaza, i.e. Hamas, and all the incentive of the people within Gaza and everything there. We think this is what creates stability in the long term and in the short term. I'm going to talk about two things. A, explain step by step how does this change to Hamas work, to a model that is much more like the model that we see as at the West Bank of the Palestinian government. Then we're going to talk about why it is unlikely under our side of the house. Before that, a few points of clarification. It tells that Israel will just cut the power. Why would Israel do that? It will only make everyone angry at Gaza, more likelihood of a war. We don't see why would Israel ever do that. It would trade electricity to Gaza. That is fine under our side of the house. Secondly, they say that the peace process is happening with Gaza. Where, how, when, I have not heard about that. I will be very hopeful if that thing will actually happen. This is not happening in the status quo whatsoever. The last point of refutation, this is an important one, is to both opposition. They say that it validates the way that Hamas operates to the way of violence, and therefore, because of religious reasons, they would like to take Jerusalem and all of this kind of stuff. Let's respond to that directly. We think that, A, as we're going to show you, this is no longer the immediate incentive of the people of Gaza because of that change. We reject completely the notion that all try to push upon us that the people of Gaza are religious fundamentalists that actually want to take Jerusalem. Obviously, like most people within the world, they care mostly about their livelihood, about their business, about providing for their family and having food for their kids. This is the vast majority of how they think. But even if they're fundamentalists, I don't think there's even a single one of the Hamas government that actually believes they're going to take Jerusalem. It's completely unrealistic for them to believe, therefore they're very unlikely to pursue that. It's very hard to convince the people that it's something that you actually want to pursue. But specifically to the validation point, because they say it validates Hamas's power. Everything this is fine because Hamas is no longer going to be the same sort of Hamas, but we know that as any analyst do, it removes a lot of the hatred towards Israel. Therefore it removes a lot of the incentive and the public impetus to actually be violent towards Israel. Therefore we don't think it's a massive problem within this debate. Let's start with the change. OG tell us there's going to be much more of an economic status within Gaza because more goods are coming in and the situation of the people is likely to be better. Or telling them, but the vast majority of things are not going in. The things that are important, things that are blocked are cement and stuff like that. And we would just like to note, cement is hell of important, guys. We think the cement to build buildings within your city and improve yourself is something that is actually very important to the improvement of people's life. Even that is a major determinant. But secondly, as more importantly, any as analyst to you, step by step, why even if some stuff are getting in, it's very hard to actually build a business there. The fact that you can't move yourself, that it's very hard and it's very expensive then to export and import goods. Even if you can export a good and it takes more time, you need to go through the Israel bureaucracy, your good is likely to come later and be more expensive for people. People are unlikely then to buy that good. Therefore, it's very hard to buy harder for you to start a business. And the very important thing there that Eddie talks to you about lack of security. The fact that you are unsure whether or not goods are likely to go in, or is Israel likely to increase the blockade, change the blockade, and prevent the things that you need in order for your business or your factory, let's say, the raw materials to actually go in. This is very hard then to improve the situation. They tell us that, whoa, but insecurity happens anyway because of war. Note, war happens once every few years. The amount of insecurity there is so much less than the day-to-day insecurity that is likely to happen for people that actually want to start a business. There is so much less likely. Secondly, we're actually going to directly engage with war, and we think that is likely to be good. But the third thing to them is the chances of people actually evaluating war is so much lesser, and the chances that people evaluating of them specifically being hit in the war is so much lesser. Because no, if you build a factory and you are a nice factory that produces good things, Israel is very unlikely to target you in comparison to the embargo that is very directly likely to embargo. Therefore, there is a difference in the insecurity, and it's a large one. That means then in a direct comparison to OG that we prove that even if all are correct and the vast majority of goods are getting in, the situation de facto of the people of Gaza is not improving under the status quo because they are lacking the free movement. Only when you allow the free movement that allows for security, free movement of the people, and the reduces of cost of goods, then you get that improvement. But second and more importantly, before I move to the change of Hamas and the people, Idan.
Yeah, Hamas can make the situation better today, the people can demand it, but they don't. We'd like to understand why, quoting OG, making goods get 10 minutes faster is what going to change people's mind after Israel killed their family members.
Idan, Hamas cannot make the situation go better because Hamas cannot make the goods come in freely because Israel is having an embargo. Hamas has nothing to do about this kind of thing. It cannot make Israel remove that embargo in a free manner. But let's talk about that, because the impact that happens there something that is and it gives you the fact that the people believe that they gained a lot of independence. The people believe they want. There's something hope. There's now a life to be built for themselves within Gaza. There's a thing to lose and thing to improve. There is a chance for improvement there. Combine it with what Annie tells you about the fact that you feel that you've already gained a massive victory about the victory of massive amounts of independence for yourself, and the mind shift then of people becomes more to economics. What can I gain? What can I lose by going to war? And this specifically, and this is a crucial extension that will bring you, affects Hamas, right? Because Hamas is a military body, but it is under public pressure, right? Hamas cares about the opinion of people within Gaza because it's dependent on them, right? It lives straight into Gaza, dependent on all the infrastructure and people actually working there. Therefore, if the people start to think that what is important is economy, Hamas is very likely to move with them. It's very likely to reduce the amounts of weapons it buys, to reduce the amount of willingness it has to fight within Israel because the people will be much angrier. It leads to systematic changes, Hamas said. It's likely to become a much more bureaucratic body, much more less to buy weapons and improve weapons. This is crucial because this makes it a Hamas that is more likely to more like the West Bank. And this creates the long-term peace and improvement within Gaza that we are actually trying to achieve in this debate. How does this affect the short term? Because they say, oh, there's going to be a war. The mechanism that specifically give to that is Israel is very likely to be afraid because weapons are likely to go in. Note, the most crucial thing to Israel is the likelihood of war, right? Because in any scenario of war, Israel is likely to get massively bombarded by rockets, citizens dying, having to send soldiers into the war, getting massive international backlash to them. When all the processes that we have talked to you about in closing government happen, and Hamas and the people of Gaza become less likely to be less wanting to have a war, Israel sees that as well. Israel now assesses that the chances of war are less likely to happen on our side of the house. Therefore, Israel is very unlikely to attack and provoke it. Israel is very unlikely to be afraid of that. To compare directly, if Hamas has a few more sophisticated rockets, but is much less likely to attack you because the people of Gaza no longer want this in a strong sense, Hamas is less likely to attack, and Israel is less afraid, therefore it disputes opening opposition on their own metric in this clash. Back to propose.
I thank the government whip, and I'd like to call the opposition.